Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mental Health Experience. Today I wanted to talk about a topic between the difference, and it's a small difference sometimes, but it makes a huge difference on the potential emotional distress and irrational beliefs that can happen for a person. And that is fear versus concern. Now, through the teachings of Dr. Albert Ellis, who I've mentioned before, who is the founder of cognitive behavioral therapy, as always, I must state I am a chiropractor. I am not a licensed mental health professional. So if you believe you have a mental health disorder or anything along the lines, please contact a mental health professional. So, fear is never warranted, and there is no need for fear ever. And fear does not bring any type of positive results for the majority of cases. And there's a huge misconceptions in our society. Like you need to be. I'll give you an example, a business one. You got to have the fear of not wanting to go broke, and so this is absolute ludicrous and not true or founded by any sort of evidence. So there is a major difference between concern and fear. Let's use COVID-19. Rationally speaking, you can take the precautions necessary and have concern, whether you believe individually that's wearing a mask or staying in if you're over the age of 65 and you have other comorbidities. But if you live in a state of perpetual fear, that has been shown, and this is not just for psychological, this is for pain avoidance, everything. Fear never has positive outcomes. So concern will lead to more rational thinking. So let's break down the COVID one. I like to use this as an example, and you can do whatever you want with this information. But concern, let's say you live in an area where there's high cases and everything. So you have concern about getting COVID because you might be over the age of 65. So you take the precautions necessary and still live a life that you want to live. While still, if you want, taking into the account of other people and so on and so forth and looking over the greater good of humanity, if you say. Or you can be fear-mongered and have fear and be afraid of your every single move and let it take over other aspects of your life. And what happens is when you become fearful of something, fear spreads into other aspects of your life. Fear is extremely contagious. Usually people who have one major fear have more than one major fear. That is what we have seen anecdotally time and time again. This is not just with people who suffer from OCD like I do, but in all realms of life. Fear, as taught through Dr. Albert Ellis, is always irrational and not rational by any means. Even in the most extreme circumstances, Dr. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, Holocaust survivor, 3 years. Through his writings, very positive, very hopeful outcomes, looking at situations the other way, and not extremely fearful. Now, do we know what really was going on inside of his head? No. But if I could take a guess, he probably was less fearful than other people in those camps. That is the extremist example I could give you. But to just show you that fear is just a perspective. And it always will just be a perspective. And that perspective can absolutely warp everything about your life and create lots of emotional distress, anxiety, feelings of sadness, and so forth. So when it comes to the election, and stuff like that, I never talk about politics, but we can talk about, the fear of the other person winning. My life is going to be ruined if X person takes office. I cannot go on. Well, you can go on, and you more than likely will go on. And the reality is, even if it affects your life a little bit, say if you're in a higher tax bracket of $400,000 if Biden wins, just a random example, it might be annoying, but you can go on, and it's only one aspect of life, and that is something you can be concerned about. But once you let the fear take over your whole entire life, fear stops you from doing so many things. I made a huge video. They don't call it the avoidance cycle when it comes to pain. We call it the fear dash avoidance cycle. Fear is the first word because it comes down to fear. Fear, what does fear do? Fear stops you from doing things that you like to do. Fear puts extreme amounts of intrusive thoughts in your mind because you're teaching yourself that you're afraid of something, so your brain wants to protect you. Your brain is very stupid when it comes to these very simple fear mechanisms. You show yourself you're fearful, and your brain says, well, you're telling me that I need to protect you from, if I'm fearful that this pen is going to, the ink will explode on my hand. Very silly example. My brain will, don't pick up the pen, don't do it. You might get ink on your hand, so and so forth. This is highly exaggerated with people who have genetic OCD, but this is also happens to people who don't have these types of mental illnesses. And this is why you see fear really taking over all aspects of people's lives. I mean, COVID-19 has really, really been fear-mongered into people. And this is not taking away the severity of this. Lots of people have died. It doesn't matter what you believe about the statistics being skewed or not, but people have passed away from COVID-19. It's very unfortunate. People have lost mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, and so forth. And, this is a hard time for people. And to be concerned about this is more than likely the more healthy response than being fear-mongered into thinking you can never leave your house again, or people who don't wear masks are evil, and all these irrational beliefs that surround fear. So what happens is the way how we go about taking down fear is by disputing irrational beliefs. And this is really important. This is why, for myself, going through OCD recovery, I really had to break down these beliefs that I was extremely fearful about. The fear of I'm going to be thinking about my salivation every moment of every day for the rest of my life. Even if that was so, is it as bad as I'm making it out to be? It's extremely distressing at sometimes, especially in the beginning parts of my recovery, but is it as bad as I make it out to be? No, usually humans, human nature, we make things out to be, we have normalized the sayings, I can't stand this, when you can stand it. You're here, you're living, you've stood it no matter how bad it is. Think about that. So you can stand it. So what you're saying by default is irrational. You have made it this far. This is not easy to do, and this is why disputing irrational beliefs, in my opinion, would more than likely benefit being taught in grade schools, so people could, realize that life is not fair. There is no such thing as deservingness, and things just happen. That's just life. And being able to understand why things happen, like, this is just life. This doesn't mean you can't have faith, but to break down the reality of what's more than likely going on in life, and seeing things through a lens of concern, not over concern, because over concern ties into fear, and this can potentially lead you to a better outcome with mental health. This is what's worked for me. This is what's worked for the people that I'm friends with in the OCD recovery community, or anyone who else has severe PTSD, anxiety, recovering from these disorders. So this is a big thing to talk about. And right now in the society, there's lots of fear. And look around you. Look at what's happening. You don't need some extreme meta-analysis or systematic review, the top end spectrum of research, to tell you what's going on anecdotally, which is experiences. People are fearful, which means they become irrational more than likely, and they make these very drastic claims, or these black and white statement claims. And, if you go outside, you're going to die. You're going to die. Oh, don't touch me. You're going to give me COVID. And it's sad. It's really sad. And the healthy way to go about this is not to force your opinion on someone, which I did for so many years. The benefit of just explaining to someone real quick, not to get off topic, which I love to do. If you get into an argument with someone, most people, 99.9% of people, including how I was, and still do, attack the person and tell them why they're wrong. Instead of maybe teaching them what you've seen, maybe what the science says that you've read, and if they don't want to listen, that's completely okay. That has no effect on your life. You just think it does through your perspective, but it actually doesn't have any effect. And all of this combined, moving towards concern, moving towards acceptance of other people, really can put you in a really good place where, as Dr. Albert Ellis's book, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, yes, anything, which I would love to see be taught in schools, is a great learner for just disputing irrational beliefs. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.